ramen to come.
All right, we are live here, practicing happy Wednesday night chats. Just trying to keep in touch with what it means to make the effort to be a happy human being. Joined by Dennis,
Hi there.
Casey,
Hello.
the usual crew.
Salutations.
So tonight, I'm reflecting on my mortality. Let me tell you why. Because I went back to the gym.
Oh,
Because I had disruptions in my gym going ways. In that my usual gym buddy had got a change in schedule related to his job, and so it was like, oh, I got to go by myself. And then I kept trying to go, but it was January when this was going down. January is not a good time.
it's cold.
Well, it's not that it's cold; it's that it's full. It's full of people. They're everywhere, and they're doing,
Silly
they're doing like box lunges on the deadlift platform or curling in the squat rack and other things that make regular rest of the year denizens of the gym pull their hair out in frustration. And I don't have any hair to pull out, so I just gave up. And so I just went back. It's been 6 months. 6 months since I've had a real good heavy weightlifting workout. I've just been running around and doing body weight stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm still pretty fit. Like, this will be pretty good. It wasn't pretty good. I thought I was doing a perfectly reasonable workout. I was like, yeah, I'm going to take it easy. I'm a little older. Getting back into things when you're a little older is a little bit more of a challenge. I don't want to hurt myself. So I went nice and slow, did everything with good form, low weights. And about 2 days later, I was completely immobilized. Just my whole body was just like, we don't move anymore. Like, it's over. You're just going to lay here until you waste away. So that's the end of that. I still like my triceps they're all wonky. It's no good. So that was making me think about, getting older, mortality, stuff like that. And, I work with a lot of young people in my life. And so I get to sort of contrast their experience and my experience. And I know a lot of people actually have a lot of problems with getting older. And as much as it does, I make light of my physical challenges, but it's actually pretty rad being older. I don't know what your guys' experience has been, but you couldn't pay me to be like 19 again. Like, that's not on the table. It'd be like, yeah, you're going to be 19. No, I remember what it was like to be in that brain. I didn't know anything. I had really hard opinions about everything. And I thought the whole universe was against me every single time like a tiny trifling occurrence went down in my life. Like, no, I'm pretty good right now with having had, now my 30 some odd years of experience. But yeah, how does that land for you guys? Are you ever called upon to think about your advancing years? Or
I mean, I've been thinking about it more and more, right? Like, now that we're all getting into our 30s, right? It's just like, it starts going like, oh man, where were my parents at? With where I am now. I think that was another big reason I started trying to get healthy again. And like we were just talking about off the air, is like, I just started working out for the first time tonight in a couple weeks. And I know I'm going to be freaking sore tomorrow or in 2 days, and it's going to be brutal. But it's like, oh, wait, you do this because it makes you feel better in the long run, but it's also going to be better with the getting older. I don't want to hit like 45, 50 or whatever and not be able to go hiking or walking around or do stuff. It's weird to realize that like things we used to do, and like, well, things that as a kid you're like, oh, you just do it on a whim and it's fine. Be like, oh, let's just go ride our bikes for 30 miles today in the sun and then like go jump in the ocean or whatever. But now as an adult, if you're like not properly prepared for that, like it will kill you. So it's like, oh yeah, adjusting to that change of mentality.
Yeah, very much having to give a lot more consideration to the ramifications of anything that you do. That actually reminds me. Have you guys ever heard about the spoons metaphor for people dealing with chronic illnesses?
No, I don't think so.
Slight derail, but just a thing that every human being could be aware of, because it's really makes it easier to understand what your fellow human beings are going through, right? So a lot of people who have like chronic illnesses, find that they have a really constrained energy budget for the day, right? And so a common metaphor for talking about that is that you get a certain number of spoons for the day, right? If you're having a good day, maybe you got 7 spoons. And every activity that you do costs you a certain amount of spoons, you know? So like going out and grocery shopping might be a 3-spoon task. And going to work might be a 3-spoon task. And preparing a meal for yourself might be a 1-spoon task, right? And, you know, walking the dog maybe is a 1-spoon task, right? So if somebody's having that experience, it might be like, oh, my friend wants me to go out with them, but that's 2 spoons too many. And I know that I'm not going to be able to actually do the things I need to do to take care of myself so that I won't wake up with 3 spoons tomorrow. So like I have a close friend who has Crohn's, right? Massive, or Crohn's, celiac, I don't know, one of those things that
autoimmune.
Yeah, it's an autoimmune disorder that makes your body freak out when you consume gluten. And I know that for her,
Celiac,
it's a continuous struggle to balance like just doing daily upkeep stuff that other people take for granted. You just do those things, and it's, you know, it's not something that you have to think through, like doing the laundry, right? If I remember to do it, yeah, I just go do it. It's trivial. But there are people out there for whom getting that done consumes a significant portion of their total energy budget for the day. And just doing basic upkeep stuff can be like, I've got to actually budget over the course of the week exactly when I'm going to do these things, because I can't do them all at once. And that sort of, that just came up for me when you're talking about, you know, things that we used to take it for granted as kids. Like you could just tear off on your bike and ride, you know, 10, 20, 30 miles. And at the end of the day, you get home and you'd be tuckered out, and you'd have a big meal, and you'd wake up the next day and you're raring to go, right? Oh, Dennis, we lost you for a moment there.
Oh,
you roboted. What were you saying?
I was just saying, yeah, you'd be ready to go the next day, no problem.
Yeah, and so, you know, here we are, just sort of average run-of-the-mill adult human beings in our early to mid-30s, and really recognizing that that's no longer the case for a major class of activities. And I thought it'd just be fun to think about the fact that, you know, there are some people who are having, you know, further down the road, maybe either through age or through some kind of chronic illness or mental illness, having a situation where like the experience that we're having transitioning from youth to adulthood with these sort of strenuous physical activities, they're actually having with sort of mundane activities.
Yeah.
So that's just a thing to be mindful of. There's this idea of sort of invisible illnesses, right? So people who look from the surface like they're having the same experience that everybody's having, but they're actually having an excessive struggle, and have to be very careful about what they do and when they do it and how they budget their activities. Not the most exciting topic in the world, but it's something to be mindful of, that when we're interacting with other people, you know, we don't really know what's going on with them, and we should be generous in our assessment of sort of their motivations and why they do the things that they do, because it might be that they sort of do have that kind of struggle going on.
Well, that really goes, I think we've talked about it quite a bit before, is that idea of like, always give people the benefit of the doubt you yourself think you have when you're doing anything. It's like, if like, you know, like, oh, I'm nervous because of X, Y, and Z, you shouldn't assume someone else is nervous because of something gritty. You should be like, oh man, this guy's, you know, probably really nervous up there on stage or whatever. Like, and it's so weird because, yeah, so many people get so into like the being the critic or, you know, like totally scrutinizing things. And so it's really interesting that, yeah, it's really hard, I guess, to like turn on the sympathy nozzle for some people. And I mean, I know for me, like, ooh, I'm a really great critic. So that's something I'm trying to do more of, is instead of turning on the critic nozzle first, turn on like the sympathy and see like where someone's coming from.
I like that. The sympathy nozzle, just I'm going to flip the switch and it's just going to pour out. Just you're going to be inundated with my concern for your situation.
it's like the empathy thing, right? It's very hard for people to put themselves in someone else's shoes, and it's funny because it's like such a saying, and people talk about it all the time. But no, it's like it's our default brain is like that's a different person, that's not me. Let me like pick it apart and see what they're doing. It's like people's default isn't like, oh man, like I know exactly where that person's at, and allow me to sympathize with them.
Yeah.
Needs to be the default though. It's got to work towards that.
And yeah, you can work towards that, and it can be the default. With effort and patience.
Yeah,
you got to be just as good at sympathizing as you are criticizing. You got to find here's sympathizing, here's criticizing. Let's bring it up here. Let's get sympathizing to be our number one good skill.
hard, but
something to aspire towards.
Yeah, no, it's exactly. It's just something. It's like one of those. It's something you constantly take steps towards, right? I shouldn't be like, oh, I am more sympathetic, I'm done. Just always try and take more steps to be more like that.
Yeah, generosity of spirit. What about you, Casey? Are you just still young and spry over there?
No, obviously the only thing I'm going to relate this back to is my working out and the way I work out. So I started when I was 28, and I haven't gone back in a while. I'm in about the same shape that I was when I first started again, unfortunately. And maybe this is maybe I'm a victim to nostalgia, but when I think about when I started 4 years ago, it hurt, but it doesn't hurt as much as it hurts now. And I want to say I'm not a victim of nostalgia, but maybe I am. Maybe it's a mixture of both, of column A and column B, but it hurts a lot more now getting up. I also have had a couple of injuries. I broke a hand. I broke my right hand, and I'm right hand dominant. So literally every single move that I do that I need to choke someone with my right hand, if they don't tap out or if they don't go unconscious or they don't break a bone and they just want to fight it, I can re-break my hand. And these are just things I'm going to have to deal with now. My hand already hurts a lot. I was eating pho, and the fucking noodles were too heavy for my hand. So right over where I broke my metacarpal, it started hurting because the fucking noodles were too. Because the noodles were too heavy. I was like, great. This is what I have to deal with. Like
the
doctor was like, wait till it gets cold and you're old. It's gonna suck. And I'm like, thanks, doc.
I like that the doctor's advice was, oh man, you can't wait till you get old and it's worse.
Yeah, it's like he's like, you're gonna have arthritis. There's nothing you can do. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like I understand that, right? I'm not dumb. Like I have some sense about me. The doctor's only gonna be able to do so much. But hey, I can get addicted to like Vicodin at that time.
I had to deal with that a little bit.
Don't do Vicodin, kids.
I had to deal with that a little bit early in my life because when I was
16, broke a collarbone, didn't you?
No, I busted my knee. I mean, everything. Come on, camera, stop being a jerk. Everything from like the shoulders up has been a mess at various points in my life. When I was a kid, I actually tripped while like turning to look at somebody and like landed and hit my neck really hard or something like that, and was just basically like I was in Latchkey, an after school care program at my school, and I was just like completely not paralyzed, but if I moved at all, it was excruciatingly painful through my entire body. Yeah. So they just put me on a table, right? Just up on a table, just laid me there. And just left me there until my mom came, like 2 hours later. So just holding perfectly still on a table crying for like 2 hours. Because that's the kind of quality care.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what you get out of
Latchkey program.
Public school aftercare. Yeah. Yay for poverty. So, I had to be in a neck brace for like a month. And then I had to like relearn how to throw and do all this stuff and whatnot, and that was the beginning of my chronic injuries, but messed up both shoulders. And what I was going to talk about actually originally was my knee, which I fell when I was 16. Got during PE, I tripped, and our school had tennis courts, but instead of like properly affixing the nets to them, they just put up like chain link fence that they just like cut in half and then bolted to these posts.
Kids won't be able to tear that up.
Yeah, it's a cost saving measure. But I tripped into the side of one of the posts, and this bolt was just sticking out like this far, and it went under my kneecap and just jammed in there and just jacked my whole knee up, right? And I just limped around for a couple of months, and when you're young, you just assume everything gets better eventually, right? And
for a little bit,
I got about to my mid-20s, and I was like, my right knee still hurts every day. I don't think this is getting better. And that's when it occurred to me, like, oh, this is just how it happens. Just eventually you stop getting better. And you're just stuck with whatever damage you've accumulated to that point.
Like eventually you just stop getting better. Like it's like 80%. We're done. It's like no, there's 20%.
So 7th grade, I was wrestling, and Steven Silverman. I still remember this person's name. I was going to use other adjectives. This guy, if you can see, took his leg, put it behind my knee, and then went wrapped my knee around his leg. And all I heard was crack, 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 crack. Ligaments tearing everywhere in my knee. I'm in the 7th grade. No one liked me. I don't know what the hell I did to anybody, but if they knew me as an adult, no one liked me. I could understand that. But I was in the 7th grade. I don't understand why you didn't like me.
You don't have to do anything to not be liked in the 7th grade.
I suppose, right? There's no
all 7th graders are inherently awful. Like they're just bad people. It's okay.
Yeah.
We forgive them.
I didn't walk. I walked. I'm sorry. Nobody gave me a ride home. Like even the guy who's even the family who lived down the street, the guy didn't like me and didn't give me a ride home. I'm like, you're an asshole. Anyway, but I ended up fucking walking home from the bus stop with a bum knee. And I remember we didn't have an insurance. So my uncle was just like, all right, man, I'm going to just do some old school Indian, Mr. Miyagi shit and just give you some Zen Buddhist healing. So he did that the best that he could and just wrapped it up. And he's like, all right, buddy, walk it off. I'm like, okay, this is what I do.
No,
now it hurts. Now it hurts a lot.
Yeah. So what do we do? That's the real question: is what do we do about all this? How can we be mindful of our limitations in a way that allows us to move forward with a positive disposition?
Go get your first and foremost. Go get self-care. Treat if your knee hurts like me, and you have to go to your doctor. Be like, look, you've done an X-ray. We've done this all. I need an MRI. Get to the bottom of this. Let's fix it. Now, if you don't have access to insurance, you have to brace it the best you can, I would suppose, and do what you can because good luck. It's going to suck.
This is for me, right? I'm finna go deadlift.
So you have your braces. I have my braces for jiu-jitsu. The knee has definitely given out on me. Then also, you have to take care of yourself. Get the proper equipment. Like Brian, you have your braces. I have my braces for my left knee, and then I have compression sleeves for my elbows. Sometimes the ligaments on my elbow want to give out because someone has been thrusting their pelvis into my elbow joint, and it hurts a lot. So,
yeah, that's you brought that one on yourself. I mean,
yeah. If you're gonna get yourself armbarred, that's your own damn fault.
So, yeah, we gotta manifest the self-care, and we gotta be mindful of our limitations and be kind to our future selves. That's what I was trying to practice. And it was my failure to practice that brought me onto this topic, right? Which is I went into the gym and I was like, okay, today I'm gonna go light on everything. cut all the weight values down. I'm just going to work on getting a little form, getting a little stabilizers, right? But just trying our best to be mindful and to be kind, right? Because there's such a tremendous risk for the voice in your head to start comparing the experience you're having today with the experience you had at some point in the past when you were younger and stronger and more energetic.
Yeah.
Right. And say, well, back then, when I was in my 20s, I could go from perfect lethargy to exercising until I collapsed and then wake up the next day and be fine. And that is so not a possibility anymore. And I have to accept the person that I am now. Otherwise, I'm just going to set up more suffering for myself,
And I think the other side of that coin, though, is to be careful, because I think a habit I've gotten into, I was supposed to work out yesterday and I didn't, because I had convinced myself like, oh, I'm still a little sore. Maybe I shouldn't be jumping back into it yet. Like yada, yada, yada. Like what we're saying, you make sure you are practicing self-care and you're doing things right. You also have to be careful that you're not tricking yourself into just not doing it. Like I literally went to work in my gym clothes today. So once work finished, I went and I worked out. Like there was no way I could trick myself out of it. I could just walk right into it and start. Cause that is that other side. You have to be really careful and conscious of that you can be like, yeah, just take it easy again. I'll do that lethargy for one more day. It'll be fine.
And then 6 months later, wait a minute.
6 months later, you're like, oh, January, the gym was so bad. Now July, yeah, just 6 months from now, that sounds like the perfect time to train.
Yeah, how did this happen? I'm even older now.
If I went to work in my gym uniform, people think it'd be, oh, it's Casey's nap time.
Right, your sweet, sweet, sweet rough pajamas.
Yeah,
sandpaper pajamas.
Yeah. I do have a conversation, something that I'd like to talk to you guys about after the fact.
Oh, okay.
I think it's rather interesting.
Uh-oh.
I realized these things about myself. But anyway.
So, yes, there's a balance to be struck here. And it requires, like everything, a lot of self-knowledge and a lot of self-investigation. We got to figure out, really, what are the parameters that we're dealing with? What are the constraints that we're dealing with? If we give ourselves the most generous estimate, the benefit of the doubt, what can we really expect to achieve? Set some reasonable targets, some goals, My experience is I do find it helpful that when I'm not completely debilitated, but just sore and tired, like I'll just say like, okay, I'm just going to go to the gym and do like one thing, with a muscle group that wasn't involved in whatever debacle happened earlier in the week. Just to try to find that line, like you're talking about, Dennis, and make sure that I'm not becoming too self-indulgent, not listening to the voice that says, don't do anything that takes care of you. No, you don't need to do that. You're so very tired and so very in need of a break from things that take care of you. So let's take a break by doing a bunch of stuff that makes us feel awful. That voice, which is surprisingly compelling at pretty much all times. I'm finding though that as I get older, I have to be more and more and more mindful of, what? It's actually pretty good to lead the life that I'm leading right now and to be where I am right now. There's some things to be said for being 19, and there are a lot of things to be said against being 19, and I'm kind of actually happy to be on this side of things. And there's a little trade-off. You gain a little bit in wisdom, you lose a little bit in physical prowess.
Yeah.
So it goes, right? Just be mindful of that. Apply that wisdom in a way that takes care of you, and keep working on having a healthy experience of this wonderful universe we're in.
That's why Fedor stopped sparring.
It's kind of out of nowhere. You mean Fedor Emelianenko?
Yeah. Which else? How many Fedors do you know? Fyodor.
Well, 0 for me.
Yeah.
I actually know a couple, but the other Fedors that I know are definitely not sparring candidates. So I had to dig that one out of the memory.
Fyodor, like Josh Barnett says it. Fyodor. Actually, Dennis, you would love Josh Barnett. He's this like crazy MMA fighter.
Let's stay on task here.
So
Well,
basically,
actually, this might just be the spot where we end it. I mean,
Fyodor is
thoughts?
basically like this awesome Russian MMA fighter who just in his later years stopped sparring because he's like, I have all this wisdom. Why do I need to? I'm going to end up hurting my body. I might as well keep my body in a top peak physical form for the actual fight instead of like getting my butt kicked in sparring.
Yeah.
See, there's actual
recognizing your limits, having compassion for your limits, right? So not beating yourself up for succumbing to the inevitable advance of time.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the steps, getting the equipment that you need to support you, so that you can keep doing things that you enjoy doing without suffering tremendous, unfortunate consequences, like not being able to get out of bed because your arms don't move.
Mm-hmm.
Which was my experience sometime around Monday. Just like, oh no. I actually screamed aloud while putting on a hoodie to go out and do my rounds and meet with my students. It's just like, I don't want it. No. So, it's okay getting older, but be kind to yourself. I think we can draw the line there.
Yep, sounds good.
See you guys next week.
See you.
Bye.